Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Let's do a wrist check. I am wearing the Omega Speedmaster Professional Sapphire Sandwich today, and I want to do a little announcement for my Patreon members. I'm going to be sending you an invite this weekend to the Discord server I'm setting up, so it'll be a lot easier for us to interact and chat and share pictures, videos, talk about news, buy, sell, and trade our watches, all of that stuff. So that link will be coming to you this weekend. So thanks for your patience there. But let's talk about a topic that I think is really interesting, and I want to get your guys' unbiased take on, because the longer I'm in this hobby, I realize that I have biases, and sometimes I'm not particularly honest with myself, and this is an emotional hobby for me as opposed to more of a logical one. And so I've got a topic today that I think is really fun, and I want to ask you guys a question, okay? So are you influenced? Is your enjoyment of a particular watch purchase influenced by how much money you spent on that watch? I've got a few topics here. We're going to run through them. But I think a lot of us, knee-jerk reaction will say, no, Bruce, I'm not influenced by what other people think or how much money I spent on a particular watch. I'm in this hobby because I love watches. I buy what I love and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And that type of thought, that is something I think a lot of us can relate to. It's technically a self-centered, selfless, noble type of thinking, right? We're all about the hobby, and we have integrity within this hobby. But let me share something with you that's kind of fun. So a research group in upstate New York conducted an experiment on 139 different individuals that came to an Italian restaurant to eat lunch. Now they had a buffet set up of pizza, salad, breadsticks, and soup, and half the group was charged $4 for this lunch buffet, and then the other half was charged $8, so double the amount for the exact same buffet. And as the customers left the establishment, left the restaurant, they had to fill out a questionnaire about how much food they ate, what was their level of enjoyment, how good they thought the pizza was, and the overall experience. And who do you think enjoyed the experience more? The people that spent less or the people that spent more? Well, the answer is the people that spent more reported higher levels of satisfaction, even though they ate, the exact same roughly amount of food. They rated the quality as higher. They rated the taste as better when it came to the food that they ate. So I thought that was really interesting, right? It was the exact same environment, the exact same food. The only difference came from how much people spent, and that influenced their enjoyment. Now, why do you think that is? Did those people, were they getting actual contentment by spending more money? Or was it perception like, hey, I'm spending a decent amount for a lunch. This has got to be a good lunch. Like they had some preconceived expectations of what they were going to be getting. Whereas the people that spent $4, they're like, you know what, $4, that's an average lunch. I kind of know what to expect. It's nothing special. I wondered where the discrepancy comes in, and does that relate to watches? Like if you buy an Orient Chemisu diver, and let's say you spend a little under $300, you get a great Japanese diver, in-house, fun colors, good luminescence. Like you're getting a good watch, you're getting a good product, and you're relatively not spending a ton of money to acquire that watch. How much enjoyment do you get from that? And does your enjoyment come from kind of pulling one over on the watch and the watch community? Like you're getting such a deal relative to like a Michael Kors watch that you buy in a mall that costs more, but isn't as good when it comes to the build quality, and the movement and all that stuff, the components. Where's your enjoyment coming from? Is it coming from the amount that you spent? And compare that to someone that let's say buys an Omega Seamaster and spends $4,000 roughly on a Speedmaster. Do they enjoy that Speedmaster more than that person that bought a great value Orient Chemisu diver? I don't know. I've been on both sides of the spectrum where I've spent little on Seikos or Hamiltons or Orients too. And I've gotten these great watches and I've enjoyed these watches. And then I've also bought luxury watches from Rolex to Breitling, Omega. I've actually owned both these watches we're talking about today. And I've loved those luxury watches. And does my love for those watches, is it related to the watches itself, or is it kind of influenced, maybe subconsciously, by how much I spent on those watches? I'm asking you a question, guys. Do you think that your enjoyment of a watch is influenced by how much you spent? I know in the beginning of the video, you're probably thinking, no, it's not influenced, but maybe that's changed now. You know, I recognize those people in the study, the pizza was exactly the same. With the example I'm giving you, the watches are very different. There's obviously going to be differences in quality, in components, and finishing, and accuracy, all of that stuff. But can you be just as happy with an affordable watch? Or, is your perception influenced by how much money you spent? Do you get actual contentment by spending more money and your wallet, is taking a hit? Do you feel like you have to get your money's worth? Like if you go to Disneyland and you spend all this stupid money, do you feel like you have to get all the rides in? I wonder if it's similar with watches. Now I'm gonna give you guys a story from my life here as we kind of wrap up the video. When I was first married, we were in college, my wife and I. We didn't have a ton of money, and so I tried to be frugal and save where I could, be responsible, right? And I went shopping, grocery shopping. And so every time I had an ingredient on my list and I saw one on sale, beans or whatever it was, I always bought the thing on sale. And my wife had requested that I buy macaroni and cheese. So you know what? I saw the Kraft box and it was, I think, about $1. It's probably less than that given how many years it's been. And then I remember seeing a great value brand macaroni and cheese. And that one was like 30 cents less. And so I'm like, hey, I'm gonna save a little. I'm gonna save a few dimes and buy the off-brand macaroni and cheese. And so I get home, I show my wife, I'm like, hey, I got all this stuff and I saved, $5 with everything. And she's like, oh, you didn't buy Kraft? You bought Great Value? Now, I'm not trying to say my wife is a macaroni and cheese snob, but there's a difference, between off-brand and the real brand, however little that is. Maybe you grew up eating Kraft brand, and so when you taste Great Value, it just tastes different, even though you only spent 30 cents difference. Like maybe, with Orient, and let's say a micro brand, there can be negligible differences in price, but your experience is so different due to your biases and your preferences. So, you know what? Well, let's talk about, since we're talking about food, guys, let's talk about steak. You can go to Texas Roadhouse, spend $20, get a nice, ribeye, a steak, get some good amount of enjoyment. Maybe that's your Omega level. You go to Ruth's Chris and you get a much more expensive cut. You spend a lot more money. Maybe that is your Vacheron Constantin. How much of a difference is it? You'll get snobs or connoisseurs, or maybe people that are more experienced with steak, and they'll say, man, I can't eat at Texas Roadhouse after having Ruth's Chris. And is that the same with watches? After you buy an Omega, can you not have a Seiko anymore? Or are you just being a snob? I'm interested. Is my enjoyment of my Grail purchase, is it heightened because I spent so much money on it? And could I have that same amount of enjoyment with a lower priced watch? I'd like to say yes, but I look at my collection and I've spent, roughly 10 on the sub, roughly 20 on the overseas, roughly, I think 4 or 5 on the Sapphire Sandwich. And I'm always talking about having this potent, powerful, minimal collection of heavy hitters that I love. What if I replace those with more affordable watches? And am I gonna be as enthusiastic about my collection? I should, right? Theoretically I should, but am I? I don't think I would be. So I'm trying to be more honest with myself, with my preferences, with my biases, and it's just kind of fun to do some self-examination in this hobby. And I want to ask you guys, is price an influencing factor on how much you enjoy a particular purchase, right? Are you more happy with that Seiko or Orient, or is that Rolex or Omega? And one last thing, actually, before we close, I think this might come up. I know guys that write off brands or price points for a couple reasons. Like one, they want to try a Rolex, but they can only afford a 30-year-old beat up Datejust with a redial and a stretched out Jubilee bracelet. They buy it, they don't love it, they end up flipping it, and from that point on, they're sour on the entirety of Rolex because of that one experience that wasn't really indicative of what Rolex is about, especially modern Rolex. And then you get guys that are like, kind of like what I mentioned earlier, where they're only spending money on Tudor and Glashütte and Panerai. They're in the thousands of dollars. And you know what? They look at, let's take a brand here. They look at a Tissot Gentleman Silesium and they go, I don't want to buy that. That's crap, right? But they're writing off a great watch that a lot of people love that is a good value. And so, where does your bias lie? And how much are you influenced by cost? And should you be? I'm interested to hear your guys' unbiased take, or try to be unbiased in your responses, because I'm a little bit surprised upon self-examination, my own thoughts. I think happiness is, or contentment is, influenced to a degree, probably subconsciously, just like with these people in the pizza experiment, with how much you spend. So you know what, if you save up for a Tudor, you're probably gonna love that Tudor more than if you were gifted a Tudor after having worked for 20 years at a company, right? You didn't put anything into it other than something you were already gonna do anyways, working. Whereas the other instance, you saved for a while and you had that pain center go off when you slapped down the $4,000 on a Black Bay, right? So let me know what you guys think about this topic, and thanks for tuning in today. I know it was a little bit long, we rambled a little bit, but if you're still here, man, I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the comment section.